When I tell you to imagine someone whose entire personality, entire universe, revolves around loving women, a man who is such a die-hard feminist that if he even remotely sensed that a woman suddenly appeared in the same building as him, he would literally stop whatever he is doing to make sure that that place accommodated for all of her needs, willing to sacrifice any of his luxuries or personal belongings for that woman. You would probably imagine someone who looks like me. Yeah, we have a word for people like that. Simp. Simp is a term that came into popularity within the last half-decade or so. A term that is so shameful to be placed upon oneself. You would instantly lose all of your Skibbity Rizzler Ohio Sigma male points. So, what's the meaning of this video? Who is this mysterious Simp GIGACHAD? My dinos meet Esperanza C. Boral. I've been a fan of the Baccano anime for well over a decade, and upon my most recent rewatch, I just wanted more of that story. I wanted more of that world, those characters. And once I found out that the anime was based on a light novel series of the same name, well, your boy had to check it out. I'm not gonna get too deep into my thoughts about the series so far, as today, we're talking about but one beautiful man. The characters and events I'll be covering today are from Baccano Volume 11, Ironic Light Orchestra. 1705, the city of Lotto Valentino, a port town on the outskirts of Naples, Italy. Italy, or at the time, known as the Kingdom of Naples, was currently a territory of Spain, governed by viceroys who were sent over from the home country. The port town of Lotto Valentino had a population of 50,000. The land was very hilly, with rows of stone buildings overlooking the sea. That being said, the vista wasn't as impressive as that of other cities. The town led a quiet, unassuming existence. From the looks of it, you wouldn't think this to be a very lively town. However, the shopping districts were teeming with traders from all over, of all different ethnicities and walks of life. Lotto Valentino's elevation increased rapidly as you proceeded inland. Northeast, the residential district was occupied by mansions of the Spanish aristocrats. Overlooking the town, one particular mansion stood proud and bold at the highest point. It was a white fortress, rising from a splendid flower garden. On the second floor of that mansion was a man, standing at the balcony, bathed in warm, evening light. He wore an habit à la française, formal wear modeled after the French style. Unusually for an aristocrat, the man lacked a peruke, a noble's wig. Instead, he wore a particularly dramatic tricorn hat. Even stranger, below each of his wide, owlish eyes, he'd drawn small stars of cosmetic ink in lieu of beauty spots. His vaguely childlike features were reminiscent of a wooden marionette. It's as if the man went out of his way to make himself as unattractive as he could. Though he clearly was a handsome man, under all of his strange, aesthetic choices, the man was crouched, observing flowers in the balcony's planter. Looking more closely, he had his eyes on something specific, a ladybug. If only, he muttered to himself. The ladybug suddenly flew away. Quite a problem. If I could communicate with insects, I could get it to land where I want. Oh, that leaf would have been perfect. If only it landed there. It would have completed this planter beautifully. The man spoke odd things to himself, but his somber mood quickly disappeared when he looked down from the balcony and saw a woman. He spun around and danced into his bedroom. Oh yes, that's right. As long as women exist in the world, it's already perfect. A knock called from his door, and a male servant entered, and Boranal's mood turned sour again. Oh, that's right. Men exist. Esperanza Boranal, among the Spanish dynasty that controlled Naples. He was an aristocrat who held the title of count. He was a young noble who had been given this small city as a territory to govern. Though this was an unusual circumstance. See, as a rule, this territory would have fallen under the jurisdiction of the Viceroy of Naples. But an exception had been made. The Boranals had been considered a nuisance back in the home country, and so, the family had been sent here to get them out of the way. Actually, that was just a rumor. Well, never mind. Despite the mildness of the man's speech, he seemed alert and ready to draw his sword at any moment. To quote a conversation the Count had with the city's chief of police, "I love women,
They are more valuable to me than my own life. I love every little thing about them. Are you familiar with the softness of their limbs? Like the curve of the horizon against the ocean? Their voices are like the songs of birds. Enough to wash everything clean. Can you comprehend it, I wonder? Women are... The very fact of their existence compels you to forgive them everything. I mean, well, it's embarrassing to say, but I love everything about women. Everything. All of it. Their hearts and bodies and voices and pasts and futures and loves. Both romantic and physical. Their angelic tranquility and impish smiles.
The chief was visiting the count on behalf of a certain matter, regarding a serial murderer who had begun taking lives in the city, known as the Maskmaker. The city of Lotto Valentino had quite a unique trait. Its city police force was a vigilante committee that maintained public order exclusively within this port town. Unlike the Spanish Royal Military Police, the organization had been put together independently by the townspeople. How did they do this? Well, that's a very interesting topic for a future video.
Subscribe so you don't miss it.
After the Maskmaker had claimed their first female victim, Esperanza had ordered them to pour all their resources into apprehending the culprit.
Listen to me, Chief. That's precisely why I cannot look the other way. This person has killed women before they had experienced even half of what their lives could have offered them. Women who were still children. For me, that is an unforgivable crime. So, please, protect everyone.
Despite seeming like he had a screw loose, which may have in fact been the case, the Count was well aware of one thing about himself. He had no idea how to keep company with women. See, it wasn't that he was awkward, it was more that he felt he wasn't living up to what he could be for them. Ever since he was a boy, he wanted to be a hero, like a protagonist from one of his favorite plays. When Count Boral would enter his massive dining room and see his servants preparing dinner for the evening, there would be things like roasted meats, and the aroma of various seasonings mingled with the meat. The carved surfaces of the nicely roasted meats were a deep pink that harmonized with the colorful vegetables around them. But it wasn't this work of culinary art that would catch Esperanza's eye, but the serving women. Believe it or not, Esperanza isn't a pervert. He doesn't take advantage of women with his position, nor is he involved with them in any way. Unusually for the aristocracy of this time period, the table held enough food for the servants as well. You could probably guess why at this point. Women typically found him strange, and not just for his appearance, but you would be hard-pressed to find a woman who disliked him. However, no woman had tried to approach him as a man. This didn't bother Esperanza in the slightest. He had no desire to commit himself to just one woman. He was perfectly content with the existence of women as a whole. Strange, but to be honest, also kind of based if you ask me. Now, I don't want to go labeling a character who isn't my own creation, but now that I think about it, I think Esperanza is Arrow Ace? This isn't official, of course, but I wouldn't be surprised if Ryoko Narita ever confirmed this. But fuck it. For the sake of memes, I'm gonna say that Esperanza C. Boral is an Arrow Ace icon. There's a scene in the novel where Esperanza was expecting a guest for dinner, a male guest. When Esperanza was told that the guest would have a companion with him, Esperanza stated that they would only be able to offer the companion leftovers. But, you probably know where this is going, his servant said, the companion is a woman, and without skipping a beat,
give her my full portion. I shall go out to meet them myself.
My man never falls short of his characterization. It's all about women and it's so funny and somehow extremely based at the same time. The woman he greeted was actually a girl in her teens, but he saw all women as equal, no matter how old or young, and thus treated her as a woman in her own right. The companion of Esperanza's guest was a girl who was under threat of being killed by the Maskmaker, for reasons I won't get into here. You will have to read the light novel for that. Although she was a peasant and traditionally had no place in this mansion, Esperanza didn't even think twice about sheltering her here. Esperanza had noticed her reacting to a bruise on her cheek. You have a bruise. Esperanza's round, stringent eyes narrowed to half moons. Someone really did hit you then? And his voice grew low and sharp. His name? He had intended to challenge the man to a duel, but the girl protested against this. I will never condone hitting a woman for any reason. Even if I did, I would forgive no more than a parent striking their child with an open hand for disciplinary purposes. Esperanza seemed ready to storm into the city, saber in hand. The only thing that prevented him from doing so was the girl insisting that her boss was like a father to her. The girl had told him that her boss at work punished her for making a mistake. At that, he calmed down and apologized. However,
If anything truly pains you, I hope you'll tell me.
Do you see why I made this video? Like, my man is an absolute GIGACHAD. And he left a great impression on this girl whose past I won't spoil here, but let's just say she's quite traumatized and extremely wary around aristocrats. The fact that he was able to just casually subside her initial fears about him and get her to not only trust him, but calm her troubled heart as well is some fucking king shit. Esperanza is even prepared when people try to challenge his way of thinking. For example, his young male guest had once asked him, "So, Sperrin, you'd never hit a girl, no matter what?"
No, and not just girls. I wouldn't hit grown women, or gentle women, or older women, or pregnant women, or little women, or beautiful women, or homely women. If I ever give in to anger and strike a woman, I am prepared to handle a pistol on the spot.
Say the girl was actually a witch, for example, or a terrible bad person. How would you stop her without hitting her? I mean, ideally, you'd talk her out of it. But what if she was already waving a dagger around or something? Maybe you'd be fine with getting hurt, but other girls might die. What would you do then?
I'd stop her by slipping past that blade and embracing her gently.
What if she bites you?
I'll block her lips with my own.
That might actually be meaner than hitting her, don't you think?
You could be right. So if that girl has someone she likes, it would be best to have him use that method to stop her.
Are we ignoring what the guy wants?
Why should I have to take a man's convenience into account?
I do want to make it clear at this point that Esperanza definitely does not possess the typical defining qualities of a simp, but I couldn't think of a better title for this video. You see, the term simp stands for suckers idolizing mediocre pussy. That implies that Esperanza is in it for the sex, which, as we've established, he very clearly is not. But like with many internet slang terms, it's become one that gets thrown around without much thought as to its original meaning. So yeah, if you have the brain of a chronically online neckbeard who uses the term "yeah" on a daily basis, then I could see why your feeble little mind would think the Count is a simp. The boy who was questioning the Count had his own questionable views on the world, which were suitable for scrutiny in their own right, but that's a story for another time. To describe Esperanza in a more brief manner, he's a man who is completely devoted to the absolute existence of women. He will selflessly sacrifice body and soul just to make sure every woman he knows is living a life as comfortably as possible. He recognizes his own shortcomings and wishes he were stronger, but would throw himself into harm's way without a second thought if it meant protecting a woman. Also, he quite possibly could be aromantic and/or asexual. Also, he's just weird, but sharper than he appears. Now, there's more I could get into with his character, but that would spoil the story for Ironic Light Orchestra. Let's just say there's some trouble with the Maskmaker, the town has some shenanigans going on with alchemy and fake gold, and it's just a very good story that I highly recommend you read. I don't recommend you jumping straight into this volume though, as it won't hit as hard if you don't know a lot of the characters prior to this. I say start with the 16-episode Baccano anime, and then jump into volume 1. I don't think you'll regret it. And this is coming from someone who hates reading. But hey, thanks very much for watching. I have never made a video like this before. I hope it turns out well. I hope somebody gets something out of it. I do very much plan to make more videos like this. Hopefully, future videos will end up better than this one. I've already got a whole list of Baccano video ideas, and it's not just Baccano videos I want to make. I want to make other kinds of like anime, gaming, film, maybe other books I end up reading, videos on that kind of stuff. If you have any ideas for any videos you would want me to make, comment down below. I want to give a shout out to my patrons, Clawman, Fiddle Casserole, Ayasuna19, who is in tier 2, and Pitfighter Plus, who is in tier 3. At some point in the future, I would like to get actual voice actors to voice the hugely diverse cast of characters, and not just Baccano, but maybe other videos that I end up covering that don't already have a supply of, dialogue available for me. So, the more Patreon supporters I get, maybe the more I can afford that kind of thing. I'll leave it linked in the description. But once again, thanks for watching. Read Baccano, and let me just say this. Have a nice day. It's another Baccano reference. Can't read the novel so you get what that was.
All women are queens.